It is Saturday afternoon here in Texas, and I thought I would just show you something. I use Topaz software and find it on certain photographs very useful, and just about every time Topaz posts an ad, all sorts of negativity and people complaining and saying it's trash, it's rubbish, it doesn't work, it takes forever, all that sort of thing. So I thought I would just show you this, and especially the comments from some that say, oh, get it right the first time, become a better photographer and do it right. Well, as if they're all so great and they never ever make a mistake and they get all of their photographs perfect the first time and so on, which is complete and utter nonsense. You can be a good photographer and still have situations where you get in a bind, or because of circumstances beyond your control, you can't get it perfect the first time. So here's a case in point. I was in my dining room and I happened to have my Olympus OM1 sitting on the dining room table with the 300mm Pro lens, Olympus Pro lens attached, when the strange bird arrived outside the window. My windows were closed, and I've got double glazed windows, so 2 panes of glass. I couldn't open the window because it would have frightened the bird away, and I wanted to quickly try and grab a shot of it. So I grabbed the lens and I had to shoot. I opened the blinds so they were horizontal, and I had to shoot through the blinds and through 2 panes of glass to photograph this bird that was about maybe 15 foot away. And this is the photograph I got. So it's not absolutely sharp, it's slightly soft everywhere, and I'll show you now in real time what I'll do with Topaz, or work on it a little bit with Topaz, and we'll see how the software works and what it can do. I see a lot of people too complaining about speed and saying it takes so long and it takes 50 minutes on their computer to do one image and so on. Well, there are too many variables there to make generalizations like that, because many people I know have totally messed up their computers, have all sorts of junk running on, and have no real clue what they're doing, and then they blame their computer for operating slowly because they have an old hard drive, they have the minimum requirement of RAM, they have a poor video card, they're running graphics processing software, but then they're also running browsers, looking at the internet, streaming music, watching a movie at the same time or whatever, and then they complain that their computer is slow. Well, here, so you know what I've got, I have a Windows PC. I bought it in 2018, so it's 4 years old right now. There's the overall summary. Windows 10-bit Pro, Intel i7, 32 gigs of RAM. I have 2 LG 4K, I think they are, monitors, and I have my graphics card is an NVIDIA Quadro P4000 with 4 gigabytes of RAM. My main hard drive is a 1 terabyte SSD, and the secondary hard drive on this machine where I keep my Lightroom catalog is a standard 7200 RPM conventional hard drive. So that's my setup. So here's the photograph of the bird, and let's take a look at it. I have it in Lightroom. I have cropped it to what I want to do. So there's how I've cropped it. It's a 20 megabyte raw file that I've cropped a little. So I can move my pointer onto the photograph, right click and say edit in Topaz, where's Sharpen? Topaz Sharpen AI. Edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, because I've tweaked it slightly, added a little bit of contrast and so on, and I want to use those in the file that I'm about to sharpen. So Lightroom, top left there, it exports a TIFF file, and now it pulls it into Sharpen, or Sharpen pulls in that TIFF file, and there it is. For starters, you can see bottom right there, it's processing it to come up with a preview. So at the moment I've left it on the default setting. Over here where the Sharpen model is, if you've got that turned on, it will analyze the photo and make its best guess, however the software is designed to do it, to come up with what it thinks will work with what you're trying to do. And I often find that works very well. And if it's close enough to what I wanted, I may tweak it a little, or I may say, no, change that and let me choose the type of model I want to use as a basis. But here it is, it's finished already. And if I slide it across, well, look at that. So in the top right there, you can see we are at a 100% view. And I would say that's fine. Look at those feathers. Note how fuzzy they are here, and its head and body. Through the glass, nothing is sharp. It's all a little bit soft. So if I move across it now to see, take a look at that. A little bit of dirt or mark on its beak there. In my opinion, that is absolutely fine. So I'm not even going to worry about changing that. You can try different options if you want to, but if you're happy as I am here, that is fine. The only thing I would change is, it's of course trying to sharpen the whole image. I don't really need the rocks and things behind to try and sharpen those. I'm really just concerned about the bird. So here's where you can use this function, bottom right, mask. So now I'm going to add, instead of letting Topaz try and sharpen the whole thing, I'm going to add sharpening just where I want to. And you can adjust the opacity of the brush. I'll leave it at 100. Turn edge aware on and take the size down a little. And I'm going to tell Topaz, now this is where I want the sharpening applied. So there. And then I'm going to take the opacity down quite dramatically. And let's see, I'll take the size down a little. And then I'll just blend it out here, because that portion of the bird is blurred anyway because of the glass. But I'll let it put a softish kind of sharpening there. And the legs and feet I'm going to leave as it was. Now I can come here and refine this a little and say subtract, and I'm going to take out the bleed through there where I overshot the bottom of the body, make this size a little smaller, take the opacity up so it takes it out more definitely. So I'm going to remove that. I overshot the back there, just take that off. The front of its face there, or beak, take that out. Take that out there. And take the little bit off on its back there where I overshot the edge of the bird. So what I'm doing now, I'm showing Topaz where I wanted to apply that sharpening. And I think that would work pretty well. I'm going to use the subtract, make it not quite as big, a little bit smaller, about that size, and make the opacity low, and I'm going to say just subtract a little bit there, so it blends it in a little more. And I'm going to add with low opacity, again, just low opacity, so I'm blending that into the body. So the heaviest sharpening will be here where it is naturally sharper, and then it will fade out as the natural bokeh does in this photograph. So I think that's what I want. Then you say apply. Now it will apply that sharpening just to that part of the bird. And if I now come across, it's not trying to sharpen the rocks in the background. You'll see now there's no difference there. And it's just applying sharpening to the bird. So for all of those that say Topaz is rubbish and it doesn't work and it's terribly slow and it only works on certain photographs, well, thanks for stating the obvious. That's kind of obvious. Software will work better on some photographs than others, but when it does work in a photograph like this that it was impossible for me to get right the first time, as so many state every time there's an ad, I could not because of the shooting conditions. And here Topaz has turned that photograph where I had to take a quick shot and couldn't get it exactly right, couldn't open the windows without frightening the bird. It has done, in my opinion, miracles. So that's just something to show you how it works. The last step now that I'm happy with that is just to say apply. So now watch, let's see how long that takes. Bear in mind, this is a computer from 2018, and there it goes. That's about 10 seconds so far. And I don't have all sorts of other software running. I think just my browser there and my recorder and there we are, and Lightroom. That took, what, about 15 to 20 seconds, and it's done. And there it is. So if I now look at it in the library mode in Lightroom, and I say pick those two and compare them, there's the Topaz adjusted image on the left and my original raw file on the right. And if you look at the difference, I think it's pretty miraculous given the conditions that I had to photograph this bird. So if you were wondering if Topaz actually does work, here is an actual example just taken by me through my window of a bird at my house. And there are many occasions where, especially when you're using a long lens and your depth of field is so shallow, you might just miss something. A bird the other day that was facing me, by accident my focus ended up being on its shoulder and the head was soft, just soft. So I used Topaz, I masked it, and it came out beautifully. So there you are. There's an example for you to look at of Topaz in operation. And the other software too, I have Gigapixel, Denoise, one or two others, I can't remember exactly which, and they have helped me tremendously, and for the price I think they are excellent value for money.